Secondo voi si viaggia comodi su un mezzo da corsa?
What do you say? Do you think you can comfortably sail on a racer? Obviously not. Everything is optimised to reach the highest performance. But in boating, it seems this idea has passed. Owners want comfortable cruising boats that are aggressive in regattas. Do you think this is possible? Italia Yachts say so. This is Italia Yachts 12.98 and today I'm in Salerno, Italy to test it. Let's get started and welcome to The Boat Show.
Si comincia, siete su The Boat Show.
At first glance, the 12.98 is actually recognisable. The lines of the hull, the deck layout, its shapes and its solutions are undoubtedly those of the shipyard. This is a very important goal for someone who wants to give a unique and peculiar soul to their boats. A removable beach area at the stern allows access to the sea when open, but during a regatta, this area remains on land. Entering the cockpit, you can notice many details that characterise the two versions of this model. The deck of the Upholstery version is sportier and equipped with a more aggressive and technical rig. Today, we're on board the Bellissima version, which has teak in the deck and is equipped with an easy sailing rig, while below deck, you'll see it, but Mirko Arbore addressed all its personality. Two suspended benches enlarged the perception of the width of the stern area. Here you can access the stern locker and you can store the life raft. There is a simple and functional wheelhouse with a double wheel and a double analogic compass, and the instrumentation as the main plotter on starboard. With two pairs of winches, you can manage the whole rigging from what can be considered the managing cockpit forward to the wheel column. Here, the benches do not extend all the way to the stern because this space is really vital. From here, you can easily manage the whole boat. The only flaw is that there is no space to store all the lines. Between the two benches is a foldable teak table that can be easily removed. The shape of the deckhouse with its long windows is now a trademark of the shipyard. The longitudinal travellers of the jib are recessed on the edges of the deckhouse, and obviously, in front of the mast, there is the possibility of having a self-tacking traveller. The furling jib in the Bellissima version is manual. For cruising, the bowsprit is not really large, and here you can find the tack for the furler sail and the exit point of the Jenica tack. In addition, the anchor has an integrated front. This configuration has an aluminium mast rather than a carbon mast, but the sail plan is identical to that of the racer version Upholstery. If on deck, the sole is that of a racer thoroughbred, below deck the version of Mirko Arbore called for a different idea. Its main purpose was to propose a more familiar feeling for those who, after having fun at the helm, go below deck to relax. To do so, the choice of materials and the lighting setup have played a fundamental role. The warm and comfortable upholstery covers all the bulkheads with colours and shades to amplify the width and the perception of the spaces. The management of the lights that work in tandem with the various levels of the bulkhead plans allows it to be diffused without any direct light points. There are spaces without lights on the ceiling where the lamps are the actual bulkheads and furniture. Going into the portside dinette below deck, there is an L-shaped kitchen with a Corian surface, wood cabinets, a 160-litre well refrigerator and another drawer refrigerator.
A
detail that doesn't have to go unnoticed is the steel handrail next to the sink and the one carved in the chart table. It is important because even if the feeling has to be a familiar one, we do not have to forget that on a boat there are many fundamental needs, such as safety. On the bulwark opposite the kitchen is the head with a separate shower box dedicated to the two aft twin berths. The charting area, as on many other models, has been replaced by a large and comfortable sofa, but the instrumentation is here, behind the blinds in solid teak. Forward of the master's stateroom, the diffused light and characteristic lines of the furnishings continue the softness and elegance of the new 12.98 design. The master bathroom would be used as a dressing room for wet oilskin jackets and storage in the Upholstery version. Normally, I like to do the sailing test by myself, not to be influenced by anything or anyone. But this time, the CEO of the shipyard, Daniele del Tullio, really knows how to sail. What could be nicer than sailing together? What do you say? Are you ready? I was born ready. This boat, the 12.98, has been researched to the smallest details, especially the scientific ones. The designer's pencil drawing was bypassed and you used computers directly, which created new hulls that you raced virtually. This won out in the end. We compared the 9 hulls that were found to be not only the fastest, but also the most efficient in terms of seaworthiness. And in the final phase, we developed regattas from 6 to 20 knots with the 3 hulls that we found to be the fastest. The hull is the same both in the Upholstery version and in the Bellissima version. The one we are on today, however, the appendages change, both the fin and the bulb. The keel, like the hull, also had a need for VPP and CFD development, and then an analysis of the mathematics. Initially, we thought that the design would not differ that much for only 25 centimetres in length, but actually the barycenters that developed generated a particularly different shape.
I hope that you can bear with this.
However, in the Bellissima version and the Upholstery version, all the interior layout and even the weight arrangement on board are different. I noticed that we're talking about a 800 kilogram delta. I talked to Maurizio Casuti, chief designer of the keel design, and he told me that being able to optimize a hull for 2 different displacements is extremely complicated. However, you made it happen. Yes, and this is another reason why the 2 boats have different keels. Neither should affect the efficiency or stability of the boat. Consider that on a boat of this size, more or less 12 metres, there is a centimetre of difference in buoyancy for every 200 kilos. Obviously, doing all this through a computer is much easier because the water is not moving, and you can then decide on its stability and salinity because the boat floats differently depending on the salinity. It was essential that both the cruiser and the racer owned these characteristics, and so it was necessary to have 2 different appendages. Already upwind and closed-hauled, the sensation of the helm is impressive because it feels like we are steering a large dinghy. The designer, Casuti, started out with the design of a narrow boat, optimised for the Mediterranean and especially for inshore races, to arrive first, even on real time, at the upwind mark. Let's say that especially on Mediterranean upwind, downwind races, the key element is to create a very fast upwind boat, which is also an important element when cruising where the owner may encounter more difficulty. The moment of cruising is a moment that, on a narrow boat, suited to upwind perfectly, as this one is doing now, can have some drawbacks. A narrow boat can have more heeling moment. Yes, the RM, rating moment, of the boat is actually a combination of a number of factors. This is calculated through the omega, meaning the position of the sail plan, the wetted surface, the prismatic coefficient, and the appendages themselves. I start by giving you two facts. Today we are in Salerno, and the weather is peculiar. The wind is wonderful, lying and coming from land. The sea is flat, but there are many gusts, and it turns a lot. I'm sure we can get above or actually get below 30 degrees at apparent wind. 7.4 knots, and we're at 28 degrees and 11.8 knots of pressure. Under speed, the feeling does not change. It is really steering, and it's like having a toy in your hands, and it is a lot of fun. Yes, you are having a lot of fun.
Siamo su 140 adesso.
We're at 140 degrees compass, 11.2 knots of pressure, and we're doing 9.9, actually 10.2 knots of speed. Not bad, in my opinion.
Direi sempre non male.
Daniele, being able to find a compromise between the top speed and the real speed that this hull has, and then instead optimise it for racing and give it a compensated time optimisation, is not easy. You have to decide what to bring out and how to limit it in the hull.
Sì, allora, innanzitutto una barca che corre nel circuito ORC.
Yes, a boat racing in the ORC circuit has itself and its certificate as its first opponent. So the goal is to generate a VPP, a speed prediction that has a fair balance with the performance the boat has on the water.
Un giusto balance con le prestazioni che la barca ha in acqua. Il gioco poi in mare è quello di ampliare la
Then the game at sea is to extend the performance above 100%. To give you a figure so that you understand, 11.98 sails, around 108 to 109% of its theoretical performance. So it has 8 to 9% above that. We have estimated that with this one we can do even a little bit more. Being a little bit longer, it allows us to improve upwind performance in strong winds.
un po' le prestazioni di bolina con vento forte.
Insomma, il nuovo Italia Yachts 12.
In short, the new Italia Yachts 12.98 is a stunning and comfortable boat yet born to race. In my opinion, her future and destiny will be the same as all her other sisters: to win, and to win a lot.